So if ORMs were ever going to win, they'd win here, and they didn't. 35% less code, 59% fewer class files, and we left it in the idealized CRUD form. We didn't redesign it of how it would actually work in real-world cases because CRUD breaks down in the real world, and we'll get into why. All right, well, 35%, that's a nice win. But come on, you're telling me that I should start using a completely different API that looks just way too simple and not industry standard, just for 35%. Okay, so we went and we looked at the SpringMVC PetClinic. We initially tried to do the port same as we did the other one, and we realized this is a classic 3-tier architecture, and it was just so painful, and it wasn't really proving anything. So we rewrote it in our Convirgance Web Services API. Really framework. And the Convirgence Web Services API, we were able to modernize it as more of a horizontal architecture. And the end results were interesting, right? So there were 12 time leaf pages in the original PetClinic, and there were 12 JSP pages in the port. Okay, no real win there. There was 15 endpoints or services in the original code, and we had 12. Now, I'm not counting any that in Spring that were kind of meaningless, didn't do any data, like the welcome endpoint or the error endpoint. So we just got a little more efficient with services, and okay, that's a nice win. But would anyone like to guess what the drop in code was? So we had 35% in the last one, 89% before that. Any guesses? We went from 540 lines of code to 0. What? 23 classes to 0 classes. We dropped all the code. Well, how do we do that? And this is just all the Java code, I should say, but we dropped all the Java code. How do we do that? Well, the Web Services API, we'll get into it in just a moment, is configuration based. So all we had left were config files because this application was so simple. Normally we design for the 80-20 rule. 80% you want to be as simple as possible so you don't worry about it, and then the 20% is where you focus your energy. Well, this one didn't have a 20%, so bye. All right, so Convergence Web Services. So this is really that servlets with pluggable pipeline components idea. These are some of the things that get plugged in, but let's actually look at some code. So this is a full configuration file. This is our zip code example again. And the way that this works is that this request parameter here says, okay, I want zip code. And so I'm going to take zip code and I'm going to put it in this JSON object. And then I'm going to bind it to a query. So we have a binding here. We're plugging in query binding. And notice this is pluggable, so it doesn't have to be a database. We're using the GIND lookup. And then we're saying, okay, give me the customer by zip code. And we're binding from that object that we'd created in the parameters. We're binding it there. And then we can optionally have transformers after that, which we don't in this case. And then we select what output we want. It's very common that we would have an interface where the user interacts with the data, and then they'll say, oh, well, we want to work with an Excel. We just copy the service, change the output to CSV output, bam, we're done. And so this is very fast and easy to create these, even though it's XML, it looks clunky. We are looking at more dense versions of this, but this actually works just fine. And it's a Spring XML file. So amusingly, our Spring port was still Spring. And of course, we have to go the other way around with insert. I won't go through this in as much detail. Basically, I figure out where we're getting the data from. The origin could be the request body, could be a parameter, then the format, JSON, CSV, whatever. Any transformations we want to do on it, and then bind the inserts. And we also support sequences to inject the keys and return those back. So again, we were able to do the inserts as well.